play.
Oh,
I
you
shared the
boys
same
done.
thing.
Jed, you good?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I just had the same thing happen with Outlook. I tried to get into my email. It's like, haha, new Outlook. It's like nobody asked for that, man.
Dude, what worse is, so I'm recording on a Mac. I have the MacBook Pro,
Yep.
and then I have my work computer, which is a Windows something, whatever. Uh, I was running out of space on my iPhone for iCloud, and I said, no, I'm not going to, do the terabyte upgrade for $10 a month. And I went through and I managed my storage on my phone, wiped my entire desktop off my laptop. I don't
Did you
know
have
what
backup?
happened. No, it doesn't exist anymore. It somehow took the files because I was saving them specifically as like our podcast and like a bunch of stuff that I've now had to go back and recreate. Gone.
Dude, that's painful. I was gonna say this is what I've been doing the last couple of weeks is I bought a couple of Glyph technologies. They're not an SSD hard drive, but they're a spinning drive, but it's way cheaper to get higher storage. So this one's a 14 terabyte. I have a 20 terabyte on the way, and then I have about 10 8 to 10 terabytes. I can't remember how many I have. 8 to 10 terabytes of SSD storage on like the SanDisk Extreme
Mm-hmm.
storages. And that's typically like I'll, run and gun and hunt with those. But then when I come home, I have to transfer it on to, new storage. Well, this 14 terabyte drive is completely full. So I had to order another 20 terabyte drive. So, man, yeah, I need to start backing up my laptop too. That's one of the things that I'm like, dude, I'm so bugged out about. I luckily my old laptop was I mean it has everything this new laptop has on it. I never wiped it
Yeah.
because I didn't plan on selling it. I used my old laptop for like my merch sales, so like printing of the shipping labels, all the website work and stuff like that. I use my old laptop for, and this laptop I bought specifically for video editing. Just it's a lot faster laptop, so
Sweet. No, that's
but yeah, I get scared about losing storage and footage. Footage is like the main thing. If I lose my footage, then I'm like,
yeah.
I'm
What's a YouTuber without his YouTube?
exactly. I also have three of these. I have a Canon 90D, a Canon. This is the Canon R7, which is my main camera that I run, and then I have a Canon SL3. Both the 90D and the SL3 are like EF lens compatible. This one's an RF lens, but I just run an adapter on all my EF lenses so I can run it on this camera. It works all right, but it still doesn't function like a true RF lens does.
Nice.
Always got to have backups though. I run through cameras like nobody's business. I think in one season, my like grand total in one season was I ruined two camera bodies. Both of them were Canon 90Ds.
Ooh.
So yeah,
Ouch. That's expensive.
yeah. My main thing is like the audio jack goes out on them. I don't know if it's like just because usually it hangs off of my like I've got that capture clip that goes on my backpack, and while I'm hiking, it's fine. But if I'm cutting up a hill and going through brush and I'm bushwhacking, that camera is just getting like the brunt. I try to keep my arm in front of it and move brush out of the way, but it's getting smacked around, man. It's
Mm.
my cameras get abused.
Huh, if only we knew
Unfortunately.
someone that sews things and was
If
creative.
Yeah, exactly.
only.
Make like a little something that goes like a I don't even know, like a little flap or something that could go over the camera or something. I don't know.
All you got to do, Joel, is come out and go elk hunting with us once, and Jed will engineer a solution to all of your problems if you're annoying
Perfect.
enough.
Yeah, I
Perfect.
can only engineer solutions to my problems, and my problems are usually Ethan. So
I love it. Love it.
Well, after our little ramblings here, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the School of Hard Knocks podcast. We have Joel Burham, Whitetail Fit, on with us this week. Super excited.
Appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks for jumping on.
Absolutely.
Joel, I don't know if you've listened to any of the previous ones or not, but what we do is it's focused on new hunters, right? Focus on people learning. And so we'll touch a little bit on Whitetail Fit and what you do and why you do it and how you do it to support your page. And then we really want to get in, and I really want to talk about because you went zero to elk hunting, like you're from the Midwest and now you're hunting in the West on elk and everything, and cutting your teeth for sure in the school of hard knocks.
Yeah,
So
100%.
walk us through what is Whitetail Fit? How did it start? I know you're in construction and then you finally got it to go full time. So just like give us the origin story, man.
Yep. So Whitetail Fit, I started back in 2016, and I grew up on basically, the Monster Bucks DVDs, the VHS tapes is what I grew up on, but then it went to DVD, and then I just started stockpiling those. I have two like big totes full of hunting DVDs and VHS tapes from way back in the day. I was just obsessed with it. I just loved watching those videos. And I come from a family that didn't bow hunt, didn't big game hunt at all. My dad had done some pheasant hunting back in college, but past that, no bow hunting, no rifle hunting, nothing. And I kind of just picked it up because I just had an interest in it early. I was like 10 or 11 years old, and I grew up on an acreage, and just like 6 acres just out in the country, but all the surrounding properties to my parents' property were like pretty decent deer hunting properties then. Now not so much. They've gone in and terraced a lot of the they've taken out a bunch of the tree rows, and they've terraced the fields and made it better for agriculture, which I don't blame them. But from a hunting standpoint, I'm like, our populations just dropped off the cliff after they did that. But back in the day, it wasn't nothing to see, 10, 15 deer in the field at night, no problem. Like everywhere you went, you saw deer and turkey. And just growing up in the outdoors, enjoying fishing and stuff, I was like, man, this hunting thing looks fun, and I'd seen the videos and all that, and I started buying a bunch of the Monster Bucks videos and the old Drury Outdoors tapes, bow hunting whitetails in October, like the old school stuff that was just like, man, this is really intriguing. And bought my first bow. It was like a half Christmas present, half I bought it. Went to my dad. I was like, hey, for Christmas, what if you guys bought like, yeah, you don't have to buy the whole thing, like just pay for half of it and I'll pay the other half. And I wanted to buy I bought a Alpine Micro. It was like a youth bow. Yep. And maxed out at 40 pounds. I had no idea what I was doing, by the way. Like, I didn't know anybody who shot a bow. My brother had, I can't remember if he got it before I got that bow or after I got that bow, or like right in the same timeline, but he bought like a pawn shop bow that was freaking, my brother was the only one who could pull it back. Caleb was like, I don't know, he was late high school, whatever, but he's a stocky kid. And it was like an 80-pound, like Hoyt Silverhawk or something like that. And dude, it was like cams were this big around on it. And it was like a 38-inch bow, and it was just like
no let off, no nothing.
31-inch draw length, like it was just like back here, Anyway, so got interested in archery, started shooting bows, and went through the hunter education class, everything like that. Started bow hunting, and I sat for September 15th was the archery opener in Nebraska. And I think I killed that doe on October 9th. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, I sat like every day until October 9th when I shot that doe. And I could hit a block target at 20 yards. And when I say that, I mean, I could hit the block, like not,
not a dot.
Not
you're
shooting good, like the block at 20 yards. And dude, I was, like I say, didn't know anything about archery at all. I was shooting fingers with full length Walmart arrows. Granted, I was probably pulling back like 20. It was a youth bow, so probably 25 or 26 inches. And I was shooting full length Walmart arrows, which I think are like cut at 31 inches or something. I had like this much shaft coming off the end of that bow at full draw.
Extreme FOC.
Oh yeah. And I was shooting the Allen broadheads. They're like $9 for a pack of 3 of them, and they're this big around, 3-blade broadheads. The blades wiggle in the ferrule and everything. I didn't even have a peep sight. I'm pretty sure my sight was upside down. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just shooting arrows, And anyway, I shot this doe at like 28 yards and just inside out 12 ring this doe, just right through double lung. Just from there, I was just hooked. I'm like, oh my gosh, what I just do, you know? And I think my mom and dad were like, what'd you just do? Like, what the heck? Now we got to deal with a deer, you know? I don't think they truly thought I was going to kill anything with it. Like, to be honest, I don't
It's
think they
like, oh
did.
yeah,
I think they're just,
this is a
yeah,
cute hobby.
like,
Good luck.
yeah, he's just having fun, whatever. And I don't know if maybe they did. I don't know. But I remember I shot this doe and we went and looked for it. We found it and we're just kind of standing over it looking at it. And it's like, well, we got to butcher it, right? You know, we like taking it to a processor wasn't even, it was like, do people process deer? Like
Yeah.
that's how new to it we were, you know? And so we strung it up in our backyard. And like I say, we live on an acreage. We strung it up in the backyard and my dad and I just went to town with some knives and got it taken care of. And we got butcher paper and wrapped it all up. And so yeah, it was fun, man. So that's kind of how I got into bow hunting in general. And then throughout that, it just, you know, the obsession just continued to grow. And I just became completely obsessed with it. Like that's all I thought about day in and day out. And then after high school, I graduated high school. I was like, I don't know, I think when I was 18 years old, I was like 128 pounds, like just super skinny, never worked out, didn't know what a dumbbell was, you know, never been to the gym type thing. And I just was kind of self-conscious about my image, you know, being an 18-year-old, you're trying to find girlfriends, whatever. And you're just like, dude, I'm a scrawny little, I don't know, I don't look that good, you know? So I started going to the gym, met a couple buddies at the gym, got real heavy into it. And after that, I just kind of picked up that second, um, I guess, passion, if you will, in the gym and became obsessed with the gym. So um, both of those passions continued to grow. And I started to film my hunts back in probably 2013, 14. I welded up my own camera arm. So like I say, I worked construction prior. And in the shop, we had a welder. I knew how to weld, that type of thing. And I took 1-inch square tubing and I drilled holes in it, put bolts through it, and I put some washers. They were like I don't know, like a neoprene washer or something like that. The little white washers, I can't remember what those are, but put those between it. And I made this like 3-tier camera arm that could swing out and had articulation. And I had like flat plate steel for my base that would mount to the tree, and I welded on like 2 lag bolts on the top and the bottom, and then I put a ratchet strap around. The thing weighed like 20 pounds, and I was hiking this thing and putting it up in the tree, you know. And I was filming off of my first camera was a Canon Vixia. I think it was an HF 600 or something like that. It was like $250 at Walmart. You could buy them. They were just like a, you know, handy cam, HD handy cam. Started filming off that and got a couple kills on film. And I'm like, man, this would be fun to share, you know, to YouTube. And then I started thinking, and my wheels started turning. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should just start a YouTube page and just share my hunts on YouTube. And so 2016, June of 2016, I went and and I knew that like I wanted to do something in the hunting industry. Like my whole life, I wanted to work in the hunting industry, whether that would be, you know, working at a bow shop or, you know, Shields or whatever else. I didn't know what that looked like. I just knew I was making decent money in construction. I was a foreman at the time. And I was just like, man, if I, you know, go work in a bow shop, I'm going to be taking a pretty heavy pay cut, but I'd be doing what I love, you know. So I had that like balance. So I'm like, well, if I do this YouTube thing, I know people get paid off YouTube. I had no idea how much people got paid. Um, Turns out it's not very much when you're at the level that even I'm at right now. It's kind of like, I don't know, it helps, you know, it goes towards the main bundle of different revenue. But so anyway, I went and got a tax ID number under Whitetail Fit. I made one of my buddies was a graphic designer. He helped me make the first logos, which I've revamped them since then. Those were the old logos, but made the logos, came up with the name. I started the YouTube channel. I started the Instagram. I started my Twitter, like all that stuff. Got a Gmail under it. I was like dude, we're going all in. If I'm doing this, we're going all in. And started up in 2016. I think I sold my first um, line of merch, like the t-shirts and hats and stuff. I think I literally just had a t-shirt and a hat, and I sold that in the fall of 2016. And then I was just like, oh my gosh, I made a couple $100. Like people are buying it,
I
and
didn't lose money.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I was like, well, let's see where we can take it kind of thing. And I started going to, the total archery challenges. I met Eric Chesser at the total archery challenge. And Eric was a kid. He was somebody that I really looked up to on the YouTube space. I was like, dude, this is Eric Chesser, like the Hush platform. Holy cow. And got to talking to him at the first TAC that I ever went to in Utah. And he, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, he kind of was just, I think he just saw something in me that I was like I was like, dude, I'm driven and dedicated to doing this YouTube thing. And that's how they started, right? They started with like dude, they just went all in right out the gate kind of thing. And anyway, struck up conversation with them, and he was like, man, have you ever been shed hunting? I'm like, no. I mean, for whitetail sheds, but he's like, you ever been elk shed hunting? No. He's like, well, if you want to come out, like come out this spring out to Utah, let's go shed hunting. So I flew out to Utah that coming spring and made some videos with Eric shed hunting. And dude, that's when I really fell in love with the West and with the mountains. Was like, okay, we got some hiking. Like I'm all about it. Like the fitness started playing a huge role. And yeah, from there it's just been continuing to try to grow and get the word out there of hunting and fishing and outdoors and fitness and faith. And I just dove all in and haven't slowed down yet. We'll see.
That's awesome. So let me add, so not by no means am I making fun of whitetail hunters or you, Joel, but you pick whitetail fit when
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. So
you're sitting in a tree stand a lot of the, like
yeah, 100%. So here's the origin, and it's hilarious because like a bunch of the early podcasts that I would do, I'd get that reaction of like, all right, so explain to me what, fitness and whitetail hunting and stuff. I started Whitetail Fit because I had a passion for whitetail hunting and I had a passion for fitness. And I was like, I don't want to do something in both industries. I wanted like, if
yeah,
I'm
do
gonna,
one.
I love both of these things. If I want to do something, it's just put it together. So I made Whitetail Fit with no intention of being like, you have to be like this buff, like whatever to go whitetail hunting. Cause I know guys, lack of better words, like pretty overweight who are extremely good whitetail hunters, right? Especially on the rifle side. Like the rifle side, it's a whole nother ball game, But the the style of whitetail hunting that I was doing and still do to this day was a lot of public land, a lot of hang and hunt, and the fitness helped. Like
Yeah.
by no means did it, it wasn't hurting me to be in shape to do these hunts. And a lot of times I'm doing the hunt solo. So if I have to pack a deer out or drag a deer out, these public ground, you can't drive a four-wheeler in or anything. So I shot a deer in 2017 on some public, and he was like 3/4 mile in. Nobody was around. It's like an hour and a half drive to this public. Shot the thing, and I'm like, well, I got to get it back to the truck, And I didn't even think twice about quartering it. I have a picture somewhere I should send to you guys. It's hilarious. It's a screen grab of the video. I gut this buck, and it's like it's a big bodied deer, and I gut this buck, and I had a Kafaru 22 mag, which is like 2200 cubic, but it's got like I have like a 24-inch tactical frame on it, and I had the grab it attachment. I don't know if you're familiar with that attachment.
No.
It's just like an attachment that goes. It's so that you can basically like strap bundles of clothes to the back of your pack or whatever else, and not have it
Almost like a
shifting and
load.
falling
It
out.
turned into basically a load shelf, basically.
Basically. I lay my bag on the ground and I take this deer and I roll it over onto my bag like picture this, roll this deer onto the bag. So the bag is like right in the middle of his body, legs hanging off both sides. And I strap that, grab it over the top of him, and I clip it in. I cinch that thing down. I put the bag on my shoulders, and I grab his legs, and I go do like a shoulder roll, and I stand up, and I'm holding this deer, full-bodied deer off the back of this backpack. I'm like, well, I guess I gotta start hiking to the truck. And I hiked that thing out 3/4 miles to my truck, which like I still to this day, Nebraska deer are heavy deer, and I am not a big guy. Like I'm like 5'7". At that time, I was probably 155 pounds. And I'm carrying this like, I don't know, 170, 180 pound carcass back to my truck. It's like weighs more than I do, you know. I'm like, gosh dang, what am I doing, you know? But so anyway, that there were times and instances that fitness did play a role, but that definitely wasn't like the spin that I was trying to take the brand. It was just like, I like whitetail hunting, I like fitness, let's talk about both kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, it works and it makes sense, right? Especially hang and hunt, because I mean, I'm sure when you started, we didn't have the ultralight climbers; they were still fairly bulky.
Dude, I was doing hang and hunts with a $28 Menards tree stand, like welded steel Menards tree stand.
They weigh what, like they're like 36 pounds?
Yeah, they were heavy, So that was my hang and hunt days when I started, that or a 2x4 or a 2x10 wedged in the crotch of a tree. I killed a pretty nice buck in Nebraska. I climb up the tree, and I had like, it was probably 14 inches, but it was a 2x10, and I wedged that thing in the crotch of a tree, and I stood on it, and I shot like a 130-inch deer. That was my first buck ever.
Wow.
It would be nice to be able to stand on a piece of lumber in a tree. So there is some benefits to being small, Joel.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I'm 6'3", 250. I'm not trusting my crotch to a 2x10.
Yep. Yeah, I can kind of monkey around when it comes to tree stand hunting. It is kind of fun because I have buddies like that who's like, they're quite, 6'2", 6'3". They're a little bit, they're just bigger stature, and they look at some of my tree stand sets and they're like, no.
Dude,
no
I climb
way.
that tree, it's going to go.
Yeah, exactly. I like hanging at the top of like tiny little cedars because I'm just, it's great cover, but like anybody else, they'd be like, dude, I'm going to break this cedar tree. So there's benefits.
Yeah. So when, after you met Cheeser, when was your first, I think your first elk hunt was 2019, if I remember from I'm a big Facebook, Instagram stalker.
I think it was
that's a good thing.
I think it was 2019. It would have been because I'd been mule deer hunting prior to that out in Utah. I think a mule deer hunted for 2 or 3 years prior to that. I think 2017 was my first mule deer hunt, maybe. And then I got into elk hunting 2019, probably was the first elk hunt, and that was Idaho. And
northern or southern?
It was kind of like central.
Central.
It was central eastern, like, I don't know, eastern part of the state, but central, up and down.
Okay, I could somewhere over like oh god, Boise area ish.
North of there.
North.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're you're pretty close to Missoula then.
Yep. So first elk hunt ever. I should preface that. I went on an elk hunt in 2017. I did not have the tag. I was just filming and calling for my buddy Wes. And he killed a bull day. I called a bull in for him day 3, I think. And he killed like a really nice 6x6 in Wyoming. Him and his dad had the tag, and it was just like, dude, he was like, do you want to come and call for us?
Yes.
Like, I'll pack out. I'm like, heck yeah, like this is awesome. And still to this day, they drew that hunt on, I think they had 4 points, and they drew it as a party. So him and his dad both got tags. And still to this day, that was by far the best elk hunt I've ever been on. I mean, Jurassic Park, bulls everywhere. We glassed up 2 or 3 bulls in the 350 class range. I mean, just an incredible elk hunt. We had bulls were firing. We'd be hiking the spine coming in the morning, like an hour before daybreak, and there's just bulls just lighting off in every canyon. And that's what, like, that was my first elk hunt, right? So I'm like, I go to Idaho and I'm like, oh my gosh, just,
Elk are
we're
going
going
to
to
be
get in.
everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And granted, the Idaho hunt was probably my second best hunt as far as bugles and numbers, just seeing elk, but it was a tough hunt. It was more open country. It was really, really hard to close in on the bulls, especially they had huge herds of cows.
Yeah.
Like we got into one, we got into one situation. There was two bulls. There was a bull up on the ridge, and he had about 30 cows. And there's a bull down below, and he, kid you not, had like 80 cows. And there were satellites running everywhere, between just getting their tail kicked and running off. Both these bulls were like 320 class. And I just remember being like, how do I get in on either of these elk? They're not responding to calls at all. They're bugling at each other. You try to cow call your way in a little bit and rip a bugle. He didn't pay because the satellites are bugling. Everybody's bugling. Cows are cow calling and chirping. I'm like, how do we kill these bulls? We're in the middle of these sage flats, and the cows we had cows at 30 yards, but the bulls hung up at 120. And it's like, you're not going to pass these. You're not going to get through these cows to get to the bull. And action-packed hunt, but I ended up shooting kind of a raghorn on my way out. Like we were hiking back to the trucks. Like we were done. I had to take Wes back to the airport, and I ended up shooting this bull. And that was my first bull that I ever killed, and actually my first like holding a tag elk hunt. Where I was hunting for myself. So, but yeah, ever since then I've gone every year elk hunting since then, multiple elk hunts a year. Just, dude, I fell in love with it. Elk hunting is so rad. I love it.
Well, what are you doing September 30th through September 13th through September 26th?
Elk hunting.
Where? You want to?
Well, for right now, I haven't drawn any tags. So for right now, I'm thinking just over the counter Colorado. But where are y'all headed?
I'm headed to Unit 8 in Arizona.
Okay. Did you draw a tag?
With 1 point.
How?
I don't know. I'm not questioning it. I'm not thinking about it because
is it a system where they like almost cater to the non-resident?
No, exact opposite. So long story short, I burned 3 points last year on a cow tag because I put the wrong hunt number in. And then this year I was just like, well, I put in for Unit 8 and use Unit 5A every year just to do it, knowing that I'm probably just going to buy a point, right?
Right.
Because they give out 250 elk tags for a Unit 8 for the early archery hunt. And this year that someone posted on Instagram, they're like, hey, your cards are getting hit, check your accounts. So whatever, doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's like, no, this is because last year I had that happen. I drew the tag, I got hit with the credit card.
You thought it was a bull tag.
I thought it was a bull tag, and then I went onto my account. I was like, oh no, I put a cow tag as the second choice. I'm an idiot. Burned all those points. So then this year, like, I'm still on the fence. Like, am I going to get an email and they're going to be like, hey, we actually didn't mean to draw you? But the way they do it,
what would that unit take typically points wise to draw?
10 to 11 for a non-resident. I had a 0.6% chance of drawing with last year's draw odds.
You need to fly out to Vegas, buddy.
I already burned all my luck. Like my luck's over. And that's fine. So I emailed my boss like immediately. He's like, hey, FYI, this is my formal notice. I'm gone.
Yeah.
All of September because I got 13 days to go kill a big bull.
Yep.
So pretty stoked about that.
Absolutely.
So if you want to come,
run around, do some calling.
And get some good footage because it's going to be, from what I know some buddies down there that guide in the area, and then, Corey Jacobson shot a 412 bull there like 10 years ago. So there's some
like does A3 guide that unit?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So there's some good bulls out there.
At one point, the article that I read was written in 2019, and in 2019, the current non-typical record archery bull had come out of Unit 8 still.
Heck yeah.
So my luck, I'm going to shoot the first raghorn that runs in because that's what I do.
100%.
I'm used to that.
Yep. That's my thing too. And here's the thing, dude. Like, I love elk meat, and I'm running out of it. I didn't kill a bull last year. So the year prior, I killed a bull in New Mexico, and I killed a bull in Colorado. So I had 2 bulls. I was like, heck, yeah, I got all the meat, you know?
Mm-hmm. Who
And,
wants some meat?
yeah, I gave a bunch of meat away to friends and family, you know, and because it was just like, man, I have 3 freezers and they were all full because I had whitetail, mule deer, antelope, you know, and I'm like, well, I could probably give some of this meat away. And I gave some of it away. And it's like, I didn't realize how fast we would use it. Like my mom cooks
Mm-hmm.
everything with elk now because it's just like, it's
It's
easy,
so
readily
good.
available. They like it, you know? And so we've been rifling through, and I love the back straps. Like I'll throw the back straps on the Traeger and, you know, do it all up nice and stuff. And I just blow through all this meat and I'm like, where's all my elk meat?
It's
Like, where
gone.
did it all go? You know? And I'm like, holy cow, we ate all that elk, you know, and gave away some, whatever, you know. So anyway, last year not killing a bull kind of was like a, dude, this sucks. Like I'm literally gonna run out of elk meat this year, and I don't have any more until hopefully if I kill something in September. So yeah, killing a raghorn for me is like, yeah, things getting an arrow.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
yeah, as
we
long as it's
we
a legal bull, I'm probably gonna shoot it.
yeah, we public land hunt up here in Montana all the time, and we shoot cows on archery
Mhm.
tags. Like it, we take the first legal shot we're given, and this is going to be a new experience for me to go down and actually like be selective, but I don't want to
Yeah.
eat the tag at the same point. And the
Yep.
biggest bull I've shot is maybe it's a 6 point raghorn. He's not
Yeah.
anything above 240 by any means.
Yep.
So like the average bull size for this unit's 300 to 330.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, so the average bull down there is bigger than most of the herd bulls we're going to run into up here.
Yep.
So,
Exactly. Yeah, my biggest bull ever was a rifle bull in New Mexico. I went and hunted with Eric out there, and he's like a huge 5 point frame, but he's got these like little sixes, so he's a 6 point.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's, I don't know, 260, 280 range maybe. And like I'd shoot that bull all day, every day with archery tackle. I'd shoot him again and again and again and again. And like I love elk meat, you know.
Yeah.
It's incredible meat. So
Um, so enough Googling over what we're going to do in September. Take us back to the first Western hunt you did. So our platform, the School of Hard Knocks, is teaching those that are just getting into it, right? I don't know what I'm doing. We have a gentleman that we do a program called School of Hard Knocks with Mountain Archery Fest where we take brand new, beginning archers, struggling archers out, and we shoot a 3D course with them. Go over frontals, quartering, like it's hunt planning from A to Z with a field day, basically, is kind of a good way to describe it. We'll go over e-scouting, everything else, but being as you have done this, like you've gone 0 to let's go hunt in the West.
Yep.
What was your like that first hunt? What was your preparation like? Like I know you had, probably got some good feedback from the Hushing crew and like had some ideas there, but like what was that process?
Yep. So it's kind of so hunting out west in the mountains, that's one thing. Prior to that, I'd done a lot of Western hunting in Western Nebraska, whereas there's an area called the Pine Ridge that it's big hills. Like it's not mountains, but it's, if you can think like the Black Hills of South Dakota, it's kind of similar terrain, not quite as steep, but it's like really pretty rolling terrain. So I kind of cut my teeth out there turkey hunting, running around with a bow, turkey hunting, and also antelope hunting out in Western Nebraska, where we would do like 7 to 10 day trips, and we were camping. We had the trucks right there, but we were
Mm-hmm.
camping out of a tent every day. So I kind of already knew like the camping situation. I knew what my tent needed to be. I already had a stove. Like I had I use that MSR pocket rocket.
Yep, great
Um,
stove.
yep, love that thing. So, I kind of already had like the gear a little bit figured out. I was already running a Kafaru bag. I took a 22 mag on that first mule deer hunt in Utah. That was the 22 mag is the Kafaru bag.
Oh, I was
It's
gonna
like,
say.
yeah, no, like I don't think that's a legal round in archery.
I know
Yeah.
Montana has a 22 caliber minimum.
Yeah. No, it's called the 22 mag. It's a 2200 cubic backpack. So anyway, it's just the name that they have for it. But so I kind of already had the gear a little figured out. I was talking with Eric a bunch about, because that first trip I think we did like 7 days or something like that. And I was talking with him about like, hey, what do I need to pack for food? You know, because most of the time I have a cooler in the truck. You know, I'm still within arm's reach of the truck, so I can get food out of the truck and whatever else. So like packing, that was one thing that I guess I had to learn early on was packing and portioning food to actually stay on the mountain, you know, 4.5 miles away from the trailhead where you're there and you're not leaving there. So that was I did a lot of like the um I don't know if peak refuel was even, I wonder when they started, because I know I didn't have any peak refuel meals. I had
I think they were just taking off around then because that feels like the right
yeah,
time frame where I started seeing them like in the stores. Because as far as like Mountain House and Alpine, I think.
yeah. Yeah, I had a bunch of Mountain House meals, which packed of sodium, like so much sodium, dude. After a couple of days, you're like, dang,
I need
I'm about
water.
to die. You know, you're just sucking water down. And up there, that was the crazy thing. Hunting up there, you had to hike to get water. You had to hike down off the mountain, down into this big ravine, and all the way down at the ravine there's like one little seep that came out of the mountain that was like a little spring that was that the Hush boys had found. You know, they'd been hunting up there for several years prior, and they found this one little seep. Like, that's our water source. Like, when we need to restore our water, we got to hike down there. And it was like 2 mile hike one way just to get to it.
And then you got to
And
hike
it was
back up.
straight down, you know, straight down in the Wasatch, which, you know, it's just like this. So anyway, the I learned how to ration water really quickly. I was like, oh, okay, 32 ounces a day, like that's what I'm cooking with and I'm drinking, you know. And yeah, it became like learn on the fly very quickly, like how much water you need, how much food you need throughout the day, you know. I wasn't even paying attention really to like the calories I was burning versus the calories I was intaking. I came off that mountain, dude. I went up that mountain. I was probably 170 pounds when I hiked up the mountain. And when we were done with that hunt, my buddy Wes and I went to Anytime Fitness, which is like a gym that I had a membership at down in the valley. And we went to Anytime Fitness, and like hiking off the mountain, I could tell. I was like, dude, every vein in my body is popping. And I'm
Hmm.
like, the skin is like paper. I'm like, what the heck? You know, like I lost so much water weight just because I was rationing water so like tight. And we got down to Anytime Fitness. I think I weighed in at like 155. So I lost like 15 pounds on that hunt, and I didn't even know it. I had no idea until I like, you know, my belt loop's getting a little looser and stuff. I'm like, what the heck's going on? Crazy. I mean, so my nutrition side was like not on point for that hunt. And I learned that that was one big takeaway from that hunt, that I was like, okay, I need to really figure out like what's a good balance of what I'm eating up here versus just, you know, oh, I think I'm hungry, I'm just gonna eat whatever, but you don't know what your nutritional value you're actually putting in your body is, you know.
Yep.
And so, but yeah, man, there was a lot to learn on that hunt. I learned a lot about glassing, like especially in the mountains. Glassing in the mountains is totally different than glassing like open plains. You know, open plains, you're looking for antelope, you're just looking for specks and bodies in an open field. You're just like, oh, there's a goat, you know, there's a goat. Whereas in the mountains, you're like, you're picking it, you're following that sun coming up and you're picking it out, and you're like, where are they feeding? Okay, where are they going to bed? Okay, here's a saddle in the ridge, or on the ridge top there's a saddle. It's like, well, I noticed the deer are moving up through that saddle, so it's like pay a little more attention to that. And you know, the grid pattern of how I was glassing versus just like randomly glassing somewhere. So I
Hmm.
learned a lot about glassing on that trip. And dude, there was so much I learned on that trip. And it's just like take it in and store it in the memory bank and take it to the next hunt, you know?
No, absolutely. I mean, that's a good point. You know, learning the differences in glassing. Like, yeah, when you're out in a flat plane, it's real easy just to throw the glass up, scan across it. Yep, nothing caught my eye, move on. And then you get in the high country and it's like, okay, that log looks like an antler.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a butt? Is that a patch of grass? And grid searching, so you're not wasting time searching the same area over and over again. Although sometimes it's like this year, the bull I shot, we stopped and ate lunch, and I glassed this knob, and there's nothing there. And then the sun came out over the hill, and I glassed the knob again, and boom! Oh, look, there's an elk butt right in the. I'd probably looked at that spot 3-4 times, and finally that sun shifted just enough, and hey, there we go. Let's go get him. So that's definitely.
And that's one thing, going up on that hunt with Eric was huge because we'd gone shed hunting prior to that. Eric and I did, and he was kind of telling me like, here's how I like to pick apart a mountain behind glass to try to find sheds. You're glassing across to the next mountainside, and I'm kind of just, where's the sheds or whatever. And Eric's like, you want to pick out a spot, you want to grid search this thing and pick it out top to bottom, move over, pick that out top to bottom, move over, and like be intentional with your glassing versus I was just, where's that? Oh, that looks, and I'm missing everything, and Eric's like, oh, you want to pay attention to what you're doing here, and that's one thing that I've found, especially like Utah, for whatever reason, those boys in Utah who shed hunt seriously, they're the best glassers, like on a hunt, like for finding animals, they are the best at it. They get so many more reps shed hunting because they're picking apart mountains looking for tiny little tines sticking up somewhere or glisten in the sunlight over here. It's like, oh, that looks like a shed. And then they hike the whole dang canyon, go over there, and it's like, oh, it was a stick. It's like, dude, that was so much effort just to try to. So they really pay attention to their glassing so that they're like they're verifying that's a shed before they go and hike it. And if they can pick out sheds on the side of a mountain that everything looks like a shed, it is incredible. When I've gone on hunts with like Martin Chag and Eric Chesser and those boys, I've gone on hunts and seen them behind a spotting scope, and it's just like they can, at that time they were picking out twice as many deer as I was. And I'm like, where are you seeing this deer? Oh, you see down, take that tree down, look down in that cut down below, I'm like glassing. I still can't see the deer. I'm like 5 minutes later, I see the flicker of an ear, and I'm like, oh yeah,
there it is.
There's a deer right there. But these boys have picked it out 10 minutes ago, and they're like, yeah, no, just scanning out. And I'm like, holy cow, these guys know how to glass. You know?
They've already picked it out, recognized it's not a shooter buck,
yeah,
and moved on. Probably found 3 other ones.
100%. Yeah, so those guys who go shed hunting in the spring, like I say, they just have the advantage of like getting reps in behind glass and getting reps in with their hiking. I mean, they know how to navigate the country extremely well. They know how to pick apart the country with their glass. I mean, it's just reps. It's with anything. The more reps you have behind your bow, the better shooter you're going to be. More reps you have behind glass, the better glasser you're going to be. So there's a lot taken away from hunting with those Western boys. It was like, all right, this is a new game. This ain't whitetail hunting.
No, it can feel like, I don't even know what elk hunting feels like sometimes, or even hunting in the West. Like, because I grew up hunting in Montana. Like, that's my entire hunting life. I've just been hunting in the West. So to me, this is just hunting. It's spot and stock whitetail in the river bottom. I can't sit in a blind or a stand. I don't even try. I don't have the patience. So
have you ever been out to the Midwest?
No, I've never hunted. My trip to Arizona will be the first time I've ever hunted outside the state.
Okay, gotcha.
So, and it'll be just because, work time. I'm a construction superintendent. I don't really have time to go do things. Jed's actually hunted more states than I has because he lived in North Dakota for a while.
Oh, perfect. North Dakota's a good whitetail state.
Oh yeah. I mean, the whitetail hunting out there is phenomenal, but so much of it is, stand hunting private land, and there's just not a ton of public. So when I did move out here and started elk hunting, it's like, I don't think I've ever been hunting before. Like, this is a wildly different game. It's like hunting big game in Montana versus North Dakota was the same, like as different as going from like deer hunting to goose hunting, it's like, or fishing. Like, they're just,
it's completely different.
Such a radical change. Like, not like, there's some stuff that's in common, stuff that you're looking for. But yeah, I know one of the huge changes was like looking at the state of Montana, just how much public land there is.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, man, I can hunt the whole state, but
Yep.
I have to pick one spot to drive
Yep.
to. So
Yep.
that was pretty overwhelming. But
Yeah. In the Midwest, we don't have that luxury. Nebraska, we have public ground, but it's not, you know, I I'd say 80% of it isn't even worth hunting for whitetail, and then the other 20%, it can be good hunting if it's not, overrun with pressure. It just depends on where you're at and the time of year, and how the deer are acting and how, the health of the deer herds. We've had areas in Nebraska get hit with that EHD, which is like it's a disease that these deer in the Midwest, get. It's kind of like blue tongue a little bit, but it's like it's a different form of disease. Anyway, we've had places in Nebraska get hit with it where it's like, that was a really good area, really good county, and they just get wiped out. I mean, 70% loss. And it's like,
Jeez.
holy cow, now we're back to square one with like these deer herds need to come back, and I think Utah is not starting, but this past couple of years with their winters, they're experiencing a lot of that, even Montana, Wyoming, call it northern Colorado. I mean, there's a lot of places now. It's like one big winter comes through and like the landscape of hunting is completely different. Everything gets wiped out, and they need that time to recruit. So then you go look at another spot. You're like, well, I've never hunted here before, but there's good numbers here and the herds are healthy. So we're going to try this,
Yeah.
So you're always doing something different.
Well, and that's where e-scouting's, for my intents and purposes, it's what I always have Onyx on a tab on my computer at work because I got two big screens up. So it's, I
Yep.
got a few minutes. What do we got here? Find a new spot. Hey, I know we hunted this area, but it felt like there wasn't a bunch of pressure over here. Or maybe we could try over here. Or you know what? Let's just drive south 3 hours and see what we can find.
Yeah.
Just trying to find new spots. And I think e-scouting, in the words of Mark Livesey, you can cover so much more ground in 8 hours on your computer e-scouting than you can boots on the ground scouting.
Oh, yeah, it's invaluable.
So it's
Dude,
definitely
Onyx, I know there's a bunch of different mapping systems out there, but I don't want to put it out there and blow it up for the price, whatever, but all of these mapping systems, they could be $1,000 a year and I'd still pay for it.
probably.
Like I mean, I came from using Google Earth and Google Maps before I even knew about Onyx, but there's tools within Onyx and there's tools within Base Map and Hunt Stand, all these different mapping systems. There's tools that are invaluable. Like I can't, I mean, I don't know what I'd do without Onyx anymore. Like I have so many pins across the United States. Like if you zoom out on my Onyx across the United States, it's hilarious. It's like a pin cushion. Just all the states that I've been blessed to be able to go out and travel to and hunt. Every single one of the states is like, oh, if I drew a tag, I drew a tag in Utah. I go there and I'm just like boom, 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 boom. Like these are all areas of interest, Here's some water, here's a saddle, here where maybe they're betting on this north, it's like, oh my gosh, it's just pin cushion, so it's crazy how invaluable those apps really are.
Yeah. Well, you should, speaking of Google Earth, so the last episode we had Mark Livesey on. Do you recognize the name?
I'm not sure if I'm familiar.
Treeline Academy. He has Google Earth toolkits for each and every state, and he has somehow, we didn't quite nerd out that hard. We nerded out pretty hard when we were chatting with him down at Expo, but he has layers where you can take away trees, where it shows grazing. It's like, okay, there's sheep grazing that are going to graze this whole basin this year.
Dang.
So he has a ton and he updates them regularly, and he's adding toolkits all the time. He unfortunately doesn't have anything for Arizona. That's the one Western state he doesn't have yet. He's working on it, but I was like, hey, Mark, I need this. He's like, I'm working on it.
Dude, that would be huge to be able to take like a tree layer off, because then you can find, you can read topo
Rocks and
right.
what's
You can
under.
Yeah, you can read the topo lines and you can get a really good idea of like, okay, there's a bench on this. Say you have a north facing slope and it's all timber. You
What's
look
in
through
there?
that thing in your micro, um, you're picking out micro features in the terrain. You find here's a bench. Okay, well, elk are probably going to be bedding on that one bench on all this north facing slope. I'm going to focus on that one bench.
Yep.
If you could take all the trees out and do like a 3D with Google Earth and actually look at the bench with no trees around, dude, that would be awesome.
He's got some cool stuff, and I mean, but to back to Onyx because we use Onyx. It's a fantastic tool, and with Onyx Elite, you have the Beta X.
Mm-hmm.
I use that to do exactly what you're talking about. On like, okay, we're gonna hunt this area. I know we're hunting elk in mid-September, so it's going to be hot still. So bedding area, I need to find bedding areas. If they're not bugling and in the food sources, we need to find bedding areas. So what's below a 20-degree slope? Filter that down. Give me all my north aspects. Let me see those, and give me an elevation band. And then I just start. And I had one in this area that we hunt pretty regularly now. I broke it down. And I was looking for 5-degree or flatter slope spots.
Nice.
And I just started picking these little, they're the size of my house, small little knolls.
Yeah.
And almost every knoll we walked through had an elk bed on it.
Yep.
And all it was just using
Or
that,
wallows, catching water.
some type of flat spot where the animal, because everything else is steep, we're talking 100, you're gaining 200-300 feet in a quarter mile.
Yep.
And then all of a
I've
sudden you have a
always said
bench.
like elk in that type of terrain. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off, but
you're good.
in that type of terrain, I've always thought in my head, it's like elk like to live in that terrain, but they don't like to live in that terrain, if that makes sense. Like
Yep.
they will pick apart that terrain and find those 5-degree slopes. They'll find those benches, and they'll make they go to and from them. They move to and from them. They might kick out a bed on the real steep stuff if they have to, or if like there's downfall, dead timber and stuff, and there's something that's flat in between. They have one little bed. They'll plop down there. But if you think about a herd of elk living in terrain like that, where would you want to go? Right to the flat spot.
Yeah. Do you want to sleep standing on a steep side hill, or
Yeah.
do the things that they're doing in September on a steep side hill? That would be rather difficult.
Yep. I mean, well, yeah.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Oh, and they got the will, buddy.
So going back, coming back out west hunting the first time, you're getting towards the end here. So we got a couple questions we usually ask. Jed, you had a really good one for the first one that you asked last couple weeks ago. And I forgot that wording.
I don't remember.
I'm going to put you on. Think about that. I'm going to ask Joel, what piece of gear, let's say you are, you're new to hunting, you have a budget, you have a weapon that you are competent with out to 50 yards. It's what you got. You're going to make it's going to work for you. So the weapon's not in the equation for this question. What is the piece of gear that you would focus on as the one you want to spend a little extra funds and time getting the exact right piece?
Okay. So I have a little bit of a double answer here. One, if the state allows it, if you're hunting in a state that allows electronic communication, as in like walkie-talkie radios. Yeah. If you're in a state that allows radios is a good way. I never really even use it for like moving in on animals. It's just a way. Most of the places I hunt, 0 cell service whatsoever. It's more of a way to keep in communication with my hunting partner. And because if he's, your own hunting partner you can make a game plan on paper and say, I'm going to go here. We're going to be here. I'll meet, we meet back up at dark, whatever here. Everybody starts hunting, they start chasing deer, elk, whatever, and then it's like all of a sudden your own buddies coming in from the top and blowing your hunt out, and you're like, what the heck? Like, I got turned around. I thought this was the, whatever. It's like you're all hunting the same basin, but it's like different. So just whereabouts of knowing where people are. So a radio system would be a really good investment. On top of that, the added piece to that would be something like a Garmin InReach or a Zoleo. I run the Zoleo myself, and you and your partner should have not just your hunting team, but you and your partner should have a device like that, a satellite device, because if you split up and you have no communication with each other, one, that's not very good for, your immediate hunting partner and you knowing where each other is, what time you're meeting back up. Like I said, you can plan all this stuff prior, but if somebody runs into something where they need help and they have no other way of communication, at least he can get a hold of me. I'm in the immediate area. I'm the first one who's going to be able to help. At least he can get something out to me, Zoleo to Zoleo or satellite to satellite, that says, hey, I need some help, whatever, or bull down. I shot a bull. I need some help cutting it up, whatever. I could go half my day hunting and he's needing help cutting a bull up. If we don't have communication, then that kind of like puts a wrench in the gear of things. If I were able to hike up there and help him cut the bull up, then we can get things done faster. I still got a tag, whatever. It's just communication is huge in any walk of life. But if you are out in the wilderness where you're not going to have communication, a really good investment would be a satellite device where you can and reach back at home and touch base with, the wife, the girlfriend, kids, whoever. Let them know that you're all right, keep that communication going. And because a lot of times they worry too, if they can't get a hold of you and you're in the middle of nowhere and they don't know where you're at, it's a comforting feeling for, like my girlfriend, just send a text out to my girlfriend from the Zoleo and, hey, everything's good. I'm back at camp, eating dinner, saw a few elk, whatever. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but just some form of communication and that could save your life. I mean, there's been a lot of stories, that are a little bone chilling. It's like people getting lost and or getting injured, whatever. And it's like if they didn't have, some type of satellite communication to get out and say, SOS, I need help, like that's it. You're toast.
Yeah. No,
So
I run the Spot
I'm not
device.
sure if
It's got I have SOS insurance on mine, so I pay. It's like $30 a month, $30 a year per person, and it's got
oh
the
sweet.
SOS button on it, right? And if I hit that button, or anyone in our group, everyone we go out hunting with, they give me $30. I sign them up under my plan, because if any of us hit that button, whoever it's for is covered for chopper to the hospital. Like
Oh
it
sweet.
will literally, it's just there to save you. But then it also has, it's the same concept as the Garmin InReach. I can text the wife, I can text whatever
Sure.
numbers. But no, satellite communication pieces are huge
Yeah.
for doing those big style Western hunts.
Yeah. And dude, I've done some hunts where I really should not have been out there without the device. I did a 10-day solo trip to Colorado, like a month and a half after I screwed up my lower back. I was doing deadlifts at the gym and I blew out my lower back and had disc injuries, and I was like just good enough to where I was like, man, I can kind of get around. I did half the hunt with a back brace on in the middle of like no cell service whatsoever, solo Colorado archery trip, hunting elk. Dude, if something happened, I'd been no communication, buddy. Like
Yeah,
nobody knew where I was. My buddy in Oklahoma knew the mountain range that I was hunting, but he didn't know where I was.
yeah.
It's like,
What the 17 trailheads that you could potentially be up? Not
yeah,
to mention,
oh
I
yeah,
just bailed off this ridge.
yep, yeah,
Go
I
try to
was,
find my truck in 300 square miles, and then start
yeah,
circling. You'll find me eventually.
yeah, I got done with that hunt and I was just like on the way home from that hunt, I stopped at I think it was a Bass Pro or something like that, and that's when I bought the Zoleo because I was like, dude, if something happened, I'd have been no way about it. I'd have been dead, you know.
Yep. No, well, I mean, we had that hunt I went on this fall, fall, early November rifle hunt, because we're our season's rifle starts middle of October and runs through the end of November. And we go to an area and there's some snow up on top of the peaks, and we had 2 vehicles. We had radios because radios are legal in Montana for communication, not for hunting.
Mhm.
And I had bailed off the backside of this ridge, got some looks from guys in side by sides. I'm driving a Ram 1500, and these guys are like, what, how'd you get back here? It's like, yeah, I came down that ridge. I know I shouldn't have, but I did, and now I'm here, and I got
Yeah.
to go that way. We
Yeah.
4 low, 4 chains, like
Yeah.
crawling up out of this hill. We get up out of this hole after I thought we had grenaded my transmission, which we didn't.
Oh my gosh.
Luckily, I was stuck in 4 low for a minute, but that was fine. We climb up out of this hill and we get up almost to the top, and I hear the radio coming on. It's my buddy CJ, and he goes, "Hey, where are you guys at? We're stuck."
Oh,
Like, we were almost stuck. We're not stuck now because I had to chain up, but where are you at? And like, we talked around it, and we finally found they had come up from another side, and we were going to meet up on top of this mountain to do some, it's the highest point around. We were going to start glassing.
sure.
And they hit a drift and just stuck, like permanently stuck. And there's no cell service. There's nothing around. Yeah. Nobody else is driving up there because, we were the idiots going where no one else had gone to try to get some eyes on things. And we go mobbing up the hill, and finally we get on top, and we're looking around, and they're like, "Hey, we see you." Just radio back and forth, like, "Hey, look, there you are." And we get over there, and, luckily I had a tow strap and a shovel and everything. So we got them pulled out, but otherwise it would have been a real long night for those guys Cameron, he didn't have a shovel in his truck. He didn't, he's a Montana kid. He's usually has all this stuff in there, and he had done something, taken all that stuff out, forgot to put it back in. And now all of a sudden it's like, shoot.
Yeah. That's now we need it. Yeah. Yeah. There's anytime, man, you never know. And weather can come in on you overnight. If you're camping and, bluebird skies and everything's good, whatever, then you could wake up to 3 foot of snow the next morning, depending on where you're at in a high country situation, and, any type of communication that you can have back home, back to somebody near you, whatever. I've found in my recent years, in my old wise age, that I should start doing that.
Old wise age, you're what, 28?
I'll be 31 next week.
You're over the 30s.
Oh yeah,
Welcome to the club,
30s, buddy.
You got more hair than I do.
My body's been telling me I'm over 30 for the last 2 years. So
that's that whole fit part, right?
Yep. If I don't keep after it, I'm gonna be a hurting unit,
dude. That no joke. The like, I'll go. I go to the gym 3 times a week. I work out. I run. I do. The nights I don't go to the days I don't go to the gym, I got 2 short-haired dogs, so I have to exercise them, otherwise they go nuts. But when I stop being active for any period of time, like miss the gym for a week and a half for whatever reason, my God, I hurt. Like my back starts hurting more. My knees start hurting more. It's like, man, everyone told me I was going to feel like this when I was 16 and rubbery. And now it's like, I'm old.
Starting to set in. And I went to the gym today, and we were shooting hoops. There's a basketball hoop at the gym. And one of the trainers there, I know all these trainers really well. It's like a strength and conditioning gym, and they're very specific on training, like mainly high school and college level athletes for specific, basketball, football, whatever their specific sport is, they train the strength and conditioning for that. And anyway, the trainers, there's a bunch of my buddies there, and we're shooting hoops and stuff. And I always thought Dave was like my age. He looks younger, he's like 6'2", 6'3", he's in great shape. We're shooting hoops and stuff. I'm like, we'll play some one-on-one. And he's like, no, dude, no. And he played like college basketball. Like he way out. I mean, he was like an actual good shot. I'm over there somewhat hitting threes. Yeah. And he's like, no. I'm like, why not? He's like, oh, dude, my knees, there's no way. He's like, my knees, if I do one-on-one, like the next day and the next day, if I don't blow my knees out right now, like I'm gonna be hurting. I was like, dude, how old are you? Like joking. We're like, I'm 38. And I'm like, 1, I always thought you were like my age. And 2, I'm like, is the difference between my age and 38 that drastic? He's like, dude, when I hit 35, that's when I really started feeling it. I was like, oh no, I'm already feeling it and I'm about to be 31, you know, I'm like, holy crap.
Dude, I played Division One linebacker up here at Missoula, so I
That'll tear you up.
very much aware of. Okay, because yeah, when I hit 25, it was okay, 30. Oh, and now
Yeah.
2 more years, I'll be 35, and then and everyone's, all of my buddies, my kayaking friends, and everybody's like, "Yep, once you hit 35, it's different." It's like, no, it shouldn't be.
I know. It's like every 5 years you have like a, you know,
A
oh,
downgrade.
dang. Oh, crap.
And then we
Yeah.
start taking, trend.
Yeah. 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 Then you start doing some things
Whee!
that your
I feel
old
like I'm
stage might
16
not
again.
like. Yeah. It's
um, so gear-wise, communication, I think that's a fantastic tip for, people, especially if you're from, not from the areas you're hunting and you're going to be out of cell service, having a tool to reach out and talk to people. What's your game plan for going into an area that you haven't been before? Like, what is your what's your knowledge tip? Like, what knowledge are you looking for specifically before you go into an area, whether it's, animals, let's just say you're targeting, because we never talk about them, but you actually have this experience, high country mule deer archery hunt. Let's put that into perspective, right? If you're going on a high country archery mule deer hunt, what one are you looking for the animals? And two, what is your mindset for planning that, your logistical side of things, what you're going to, you talked a little bit about food, water, camp setup. Like, what are you doing? Like, what's your process and thought? Like, how do you get there?
Yep. So as far as the animals, if I'm going into a new area that I don't know, e-scouting is going to be huge, whether it be Onyx, figure out where I'm at in the unit, figure out my trailheads getting up, if there are trailheads getting up. I mean, there's been places where I literally hike up from the road, depending on what it looks like, you know, as far as terrain and where they might be bedding or feeding or whatever. But if you have access to get to the top, if it's early season mule deer, high country mule deer, I'm going to want to go higher. I'm going to want to glass the basins below me. And to get higher, are there any trailheads around, from the parking lot? Which trailhead makes the most sense to take? Or does that trailhead even make sense to take? Maybe there's a way shorter route if you're willing to bushwhack a mile versus a 4.5 mile trailhead. You might get to the same spot, but sometimes those trailheads, if they're
They
for
wind
running or
and
walking the dog, they wind all through that sucker. But sometimes there's spots where you're like, there's one big ridge that goes up to the top. Yes, you're going to be bushwhacking, but you could probably find a game trail and make it up to the top quite a bit faster and not, use as much energy, get there quicker, depending on, is it a day hunt? Are you hunting from the truck? Are you bringing camp with you? If you're bringing camp with you, just figure out how to get up there the easiest route. And the easiest route without spooking deer out of the area that you are planning to hunt. I've seen more than a few times on backcountry hunts where I'm up top and I'm glassing and it's like, oh, what's that big orange thing? And it's like the top of a tent, and it's right in the basin where I would expect deer to be feeding top and bottom, moving up through this basin. And there's somebody camping right in the middle, just hunters who didn't know any better. They're like, oh, this is just looks like a good area, and they camp right smack dab in the middle of the basin that all the deer are living. Um, so just making sure and being cognitive of, one, there's other people hunting around you. So, watch the ridges and communicate with others. If you run into somebody, hey, where are you hunting? Here's where I plan on hunting, just communicate so you're not running into each other. Everybody has a better hunt that way. But then as far as terrain feature and stuff like that I'm looking for the deer would be, one, is there any water around? If they have water, I might go, if I have the luxury of scouting it earlier season, and if trail cameras are legal in that state, go out and put a trail camera on the water, see if there's any bucks in the area that you're stoked on. Just see if they're using the area in general. It might be a dead water hole. You might get, a few deer passing through, but if you have really good movement, might be worth checking out. And then also try to figure out where they're feeding. Where's your nice green grasses in the basin? Where are they moving up to and feeding, and also where are they transitioning back down to the beds? And a lot of times the beds in the dark timber, um, or if they're up high, if it's rocky country and stuff like that, and they've got some beds kicked out up high, watch those deer. You might spend a day or two prior to season even opening just watching deer. Just watch their pattern, watch their movement up and down, where they going side to side. Where does that, maybe you find a buck that oh, I'd like to hunt that buck. Where is that buck preferring to bed? Is he preferring to bed high in the rocks? He's got a little bit of shade over here. He's got the wind blowing over his back. He can see everything down below him. Maybe that's his ideal bedding. Or it's down in the dark timber where you're not going to see him go to bed, but you're going to see the route he took to go to bed. So
Mhm.
then you can start to game plan like, okay, well, if it's an ambush hunt, if it's not a spot and stock opportunity that's going to get this deer killed, it's going to be an ambush opportunity where I know he took this trail back down into the dark timber, or I know he takes this trail back out of the cliffs to go feed, and you kind of can set up and get to where you need to be. But um, get on a high glassing point, pick apart that country, try to go, if you can go a day or two prior to the hunt. I mean, a lot of people don't have a ton of time off, but um, any intel, you know, on the mountain is going to be so valuable to getting a deer killed, because you can luck into them. Absolutely, you can luck into them. But if you have something patterned and you got them figured out, you have a lot higher chances of making something happen. So identifying food sources, identifying water sources, identifying travel routes, um, and how they use those travel routes at what time of day. Are they following the shadow of that sun coming up? Or are they staying low in the basin? They got water down there. They got all the feed they need in the lower side of the basin. And maybe you need to pay more attention to the low side of the basin versus the high side. It's all based on that basin's particular deer movement habits.
Mhm.
And I see it. I hunted the same spot in Utah, I think 3 years, and totally different deer all 3 years. You're picking out new deer. They're doing the same dang thing. I mean, early season, they were like taking the same trails. It's like, I don't know what buck this was, but it was running the exact same trail as the buck from the year prior. It was
Yep.
just, they knew what was going on. They knew how to use that side of the mountain to their advantage. So, but yeah.
Well,
And
I
then
mean,
what
in
was
that,
the second question? I can't remember.
no, that was it. That was that,
Okay.
Yep.
that your knowledge base, and I mean to that point, the deer, especially high country, because that might be the reason they're taking them. That's literally the only way in and out. Like,
Could be.
they know
Yep.
those areas better than we ever will. I mean,
Yep.
case in point, the bull I shot this year, he was literally, I had to crawl across a rock slide to get the angle right to get the shot on him.
Yep.
And then when we were hiking him, packing out, we took the wrong side of the ridge and got cliffed out 6 times in the dark
Yep.
with meat on our back. The next day, looking at it from just like, oh, let's go up here. We get up on this little wraparound ridge. There's a trail 3 feet wide. We
Yep.
literally were 200 yards away from it the night before, and we just didn't know it. Like,
Yep.
the animals know the areas better than we ever will.
Yep. Yeah. And paying attention to that. There was one buck, we almost killed him. He was a freaking stud. He was probably 170 class, just like clean 4 point, and we were on that deer, I don't know, 3, 4 times. I mean, we were this close on that deer 3 or 4 different times. And the closest that I got to him was, so this deer would go up, he'd go up the mountain and he'd cross over to the next basin. He'd live most of his life in the next basin. He'd come back over and he'd feed on this side. But he would bed and work as, whatever on the other side. So we were just picking out, there were two different spots that he would come across. There was like a high saddle, so the ridge comes up to the peak of the mountain. There's a really thin ridge that goes around, but the ridge that comes up, while it's a gradual ridge coming up, there were two different spots that made a saddle, and it was a rock formation coming up from the bottom of the basin up to the top of the basin. that separated those two saddles. He would always come across in the saddle. He wasn't coming across the peak. He wasn't coming across where the rocks were. He was hitting that saddle coming over. And I tried to get up there before, when he was coming over, try to cut him off kind of thing. And I could hear him crossing that saddle. I'm moving. I took my boots off and I was didn't even know if he was there, but I was like, he's going to be, at some point, he's going to cross into this one of these two saddles. I'm shooting 50-50 shot. He's going to be on my side. And I had my boots off and everything. I was stalking in my socks and I could hear the rocks rolling from him coming up and crossing that saddle. I was like 70 yards too late. Like if I'd have been there 30 minutes prior, I'd have just stoned him.
If you hadn't stopped and taken your boots off and just boogied, you probably would have killed him.
Literally. The time it took me to take my boots off and slow stalk in there, I probably could have killed him if I just walked.
Yeah, it's.
But then you don't know. It's like, it's very, very loud terrain, like very crunchy, high country rocks and boulders and stuff. And I was just so worried about him. Like, I know I'm close. Like, I know he lives, because when he would bed on our side of the face, he would only bed like 90 yards down below this, the where the saddle and the ridge met to go over. He'd only bed like 90 yards down. So I'm like, if he is bedded on our side, he's 90 yards below me, and if I make any noise, he's shooting straight down and we'll never see him again,
he's gone.
And and sure enough, he comes up over, and well, I can hear him, can't see him, but it was like, that was him. And my buddies, the Hush boys, I think it was maybe BMAC was glassing back there. He was on the high point and he's like, yeah, that deer crossed right in front of you, like out of range, but
yeah, just terrain, you couldn't see him, and it happens, especially high country. I mean, terrain is elevation, right? There's so many, and sometimes you can use that to your advantage as well. Like if you flip that scenario and he's bedded in a high point and the thermals are still coming down, you can then use the terrain to your advantage and come up underneath of him without him ever seeing you until you're right on top of him, or vice versa. Because everyone's seen the videos of guys killing big mule deer bucks shooting down off a rock, right? Like,
yep,
that big steep angle shot.
Typically midday, it's either, how is that? Yeah, with the thermals coming down, they're right over the top of them.
Yeah, thermals coming up because it's midday. The buck's bedded in the shade of some big boulder or something, and that's they
right in the perfect spot.
They loop and come straight down, and boom, and that's that's terrain. On the flip side of that, that will bite you in the butt.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, the high country thing is fun, man. I've really enjoyed hunting the high country just because of that aspect, having to pay attention to thermals, having to pay attention to deer movement, the terrain features. It's like, the high country, to me, like the terrain features are exaggerated when there's no timberline. When you're above timberline and you see, you have the mountain, the basin, there might be some pines scattered through the basin, but for the most part, the terrain features are fairly exposed. I love that type of hunting, where I'm like, I can pick that apart. I know there's a saddle there. I know that ridgeline goes up and meets. It's like, that type of hunting is so fun.
For sure. Second to last question. What is your best memory from your hunting? Like, what's your number one? Like, if there was a moment where you enjoyed it the most, like you're like, this is why I do it. What is that? And is it well, what is it first, and then I'll follow up with that.
One of my favorite memories, we didn't even kill a deer on this trip.
That was actually going to be my follow-up, so.
Yeah. So
Perfect.
we didn't even kill a deer on this trip, but like I'd said earlier, I grew up in a family who none of them bow hunted, none of them rifle hunted, nobody. I was the first one in my family to pick up a bow and say, I want to go kill a deer. And since then, my brother Caleb got into it. Then my brother Ethan got into it. And they're both, Caleb doesn't hunt quite as much. He's got a family, wife, kids, everything. Ethan's still single. Ethan came and filmed with me last year. He filmed a bunch of my hunts last fall. And those are like extremely fun memories, just because that's not the one I was going to touch on, but those are fun just because like, um, I get to hunt quite a bit. Ethan's working a full-time job, you know, and him taking time off from work to come and film me and be a part of things was just like, it was so cool because it was just like, gosh, I get to, you know, he'd never been on an elk hunt, took him on an elk hunt, and it's like, what is this, dude? Like, oh my gosh, you know, everything. And he's behind the camera doing the video and photo thing, and he's just like in heaven because he's like, dude, this photo, like the fog's rolling in, like, oh my gosh, these pictures are crazy. I'm like, that's what one, that's what I needed. Two, you know, getting to put him in the position of experiencing that was really cool for me. Um, and then so anyway, the hunt that I was going to touch on, again, grew up in a family that didn't hunt. My dad got a first he had like a vertical compound bow, and he was actually shooting my old Alpine Micro, my like youth bow. I mean, like adjusted it all the way out to as far as the draw length could go. And my dad was just shooting it just for fun around that, you know, he'd shoot the targets at the house. And then he injured his bicep. He had a partial bicep tear, so he couldn't pull the bow back. He's all good now, but before that, he had a partial bicep tear, and he got a crossbow,
Mm-hmm.
and he started shooting that thing, and he was shooting it like pretty lethally. I'm like, all right, you can kill a deer with this thing, you know. And so we planned for Father's Day. I gave him like a whatever. I put out this like postcard thing. I wrote it all up on my computer and stuff. And I'm like, fully guided 5-day whitetail hunt in Western Nebraska with Whitetail Fit. You know, I just like made out like this big card, you know, and like, here's me standing behind a big buck on the card, you know, like your guide, Whitetail Fit, Joel Burham, like experienced in all fields archery. You know, I just like totally just I made it. I made it was hilarious because I made this post. It was funny to me. I made this postcard out as if I was like the best guide in the world. Like, you're going to be coming with like premier guide and on premier ground in Western Nebraska. I took him to like public ground in Western Nebraska where he grew up. So he grew up out in this town in Western Nebraska. I took him out to some public ground around that town so that we could, you know, midday when we weren't hunting, we'd drive around and we'd check out like where he got to be like, this is the house I grew up in. You know, this is where I used to hunt pheasant. You know, man, I used to walk this road, you know, with the dog, whatever, when he was like 10 years old. And I'd never seen this stuff because I had never been out there with him. So anyway, I wrote this thing up, gave it to him. And he's like, "Oh man, I'm gonna go hunting with you." I'm like, "Yeah, like you know, we're gonna get a tag. We're gonna go out." And so I took my dad out on his first deer hunt, and he brought his crossbow along. We went to some public ground, and I made it like a camping sit. We weren't staying in a hotel. I was like, "Nope, we're camping." Like, there's a hotel 10 minutes down the road, and I'm like, "No, we're camping like on this spot." You know, did the whole thing, and it was just a really, really special hunt for the fact of like I got to see the kid come back out of my dad. Like the kid that I've never seen come out of dad was coming out on that hunt, you know. And it was just like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest, you know. And because again, growing up in a family that didn't hunt, I never got to like my dad didn't take me out hunting, you know. So I was like, I'm gonna take my dad out hunting. You
That's
know.
awesome.
So it was such a fun hunt, man. You know, we never killed. We saw deer. You know, it just out of range, whatever. And he shot at a deer. He hit it. We couldn't find it. It was just a hard shot. It was a little quartering, and he hit it a little far back. And it was just one of those like that deer might survive. Like it was one of those I don't think that deer's dead kind of shots.
Mm,
But it was so fun, man. Just the experience was just like this is the coolest, you know. And
that's
it's a
awesome.
random whitetail hunt in western Nebraska in the middle of nowhere.
Hey,
Didn't kill me, and that was my favorite hunt. You
that's your
know.
moment, right? I mean, that's we did a podcast with Joe Elliston, one of the owners of Initial Ascent, and his why was those moments. You know, his was similar. He got to take his dad out on a hunt. He had an elk tag, and his dad was able to go to camp with him, and he shot a bull, and his dad got to go and help pack it out because it was in a spot where he could get to, and it was just that moment, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So we
So
had
cool. And the following spring after that hunt, um, because then when he came back home, you know, he'd talk to mom and stuff and about the hunt and stuff. And then my mom had told me later, like, your dad really enjoyed that hunt. Like, I never seen him talk like a little kid like that, you know. It's like the coolest. And then that following spring, I went back out to the Pine Ridge in western Nebraska, which is where I was talking earlier about turkey hunting. It's kind of mountainous terrain. Went back out turkey hunting with my bow, and I was just going to do it a solo trip. And I didn't think anybody had time off work. I was like, nobody's got this time off work. I'm going to go for like 5 or 6 days and just turkey hunt. And Dad's like, well, you need somebody to go with you. I'm like, don't you have to work? He's like, I'll call in. Well, it's fine. I got time off. You know, I'm like,
Sweet.
all right. You know, so he hopped in. Same thing. We went and did a turkey hunt and we camped the whole time. And I ended up shooting a beautiful Merriam, just gorgeous, gorgeous bird. And had Dad there with me. It was like, man, this is cool. You know,
That's awesome. You
it's
gonna
just
drag him out elk hunting anytime
those type
soon?
of hunts are awesome. You know what? He probably could keep up on an elk hunt, but Dad just turned 67.
Mm-hmm.
He probably could keep up on an elk hunt pretty easily, but I don't know.
We can
No.
think it. You know, message me later, but you could probably, with him being, you know, a little older in age, Eastern Montana.
Eastern Montana. Okay.
It's flatter country. There's still decent elk herds down. I think it's not unit. I think it's region 7, south,
Okay.
east. You know, kind of that whole bottom flat outside the mountains. There's elk there. It's not. You know, it's kind of like Nebraska country. It's an
Yeah.
extension of the Dakotas. Let's just be completely honest. Anything past Bozeman just needed
I
to
know
become,
exactly what you're talking about then.
yeah,
Yep.
fairly decent flat ground, good road access. Like it could be something, and you could rifle because Montana, if you
Yeah.
draw the in most of those areas, they're all general tags. So if you draw the general, you could either archery or come back in during rifle season and still hunt the same area. So
Yeah, that'd be ideal. Cause like I'm thinking like elk hunt, like what I just did in Colorado this last year. Dude, 14 days of just death hiking, and
mhm.
we got one good opportunity on a bull, and like should have stayed standing. We knelt down, should have stayed standing. My buddy was going to take the shot. Just missed the opportunity. Past that, that was the only bull that, like, I put glass on a raghorn from half-mile away, but past that, it was like that was the only hunt. And thinking back on that hunt, like that was a very physically demanding hunt with very, very low opportunity.
Yeah.
And I would like feel bad about taking my dad on a hunt. Like, I want him to have fun and experience. Like, that's why the turkey hunt and the deer hunt was so perfect for it, because it was like, we're not working that hard to really do this hunt. And we got the camping aspect out of the back of the truck, radios playing with the campfire going. We're cooking up some chili that mom made at home and sent in a freezer bag. You know,
Mhm.
that's the type of stuff that I know my dad enjoys. If I took Dad on a death hike and like saw a bull in 14 days, Dad would be like, why do you do this?
Yeah.
And he has a very valid point. I don't know, but
Why do
some
you
reason,
do this? Why do you
yeah.
pay a fortune to go live like a bum to chase an elusive animal that you may or may not find? Well, because it's addicting when you find them.
Yeah.
When you
So
have
like
that little
I think
bugle
I
at
think
20,
the elk hunt would be fun to do if it was just like a like prime unit, you know, like if I could take Dad on that first elk hunt that I ever did in 2017 with my buddy, if
mhm.
I could take him on that hunt, 100%, because it was like Jurassic Park. The hiking wasn't that bad. It was like kind of flat country, Wyoming, rolling hills, and it was just like a wicked hunt. It was like, oh my gosh, there's bulls everywhere.
Uh,
But death hike in Colorado, public, like
not a good,
I
not
don't
a
think
good.
Dad would like have fun on that hunt, you know?
Or just start putting them in for Arizona. I mean, I have some buddies that group drew and are so
You only
cow
need one
tags.
point, Dad.
Or no points. I had another buddy of mine, the guy that's actually built my house for me. Him and his dad drew as a party with 0 points late season rifle.
Mm-hmm. That's
0 point.
awesome.
It's like how what's going, and that's
Perfect.
also making me like, okay, is this real life? Are we all going to get that email that says, hey, there's
Yeah.
a flaw in the draw this year? Sorry, here's your refund.
Yeah, exactly. I think I've got a couple points in Arizona, but I haven't I've just always figured Arizona was like 10-point minimum to do anything. So I just have been building points. I haven't been putting in for any of the hunts.
Well, my theory is, I'm the same way, but my theory is the sun will shine on a blind dog's ass every once in a while. So if you know you're going to get the point anyways, and you could swing the hunt that fall, like just put one choice in, put your number one choice in. It might happen.
Yeah,
You might
that's
draw
very
it.
true. Very true. Same like Nebraska doesn't necessarily run off a point system. It's kind of for elk,
Mhm.
speaking. Um, but if you don't put in for it, you're never gonna draw it. And I've had buddies, put in for it, and it's like, oh, I'm not gonna draw it. They draw the tag, and then it's like a lot of the landowners in Nebraska are also farmers, and the crop damage. Think about like massive cornfield country, wheat field country, and then a herd of elk mixed in with that. Like, how happy are the farmers that the elk are there? Like, not
Yes.
very. They a lot of those farmers welcome elk hunters. If you have a tag, they're like, get out here, kill something.
Well, and a friend of mine's
Other
actually,
farmers know the value of the bulls.
yeah.
Some farmers really look into it and they're like, I got a 400 or a 390 bull, which literally in Nebraska we have unreal big bulls.
Well,
They're fed bulls.
yeah.
Like, they're
My buddy
giant.
James is from Nebraska originally, and he went back for I think it was his 50 or 30-year high school reunion or something. And
Mm,
met one of his buddies from high school who still lives in the area, and he, drew one of the Nebraska bull tags. 1,200 pounds on the hoof.
yeah, I believe it.
Just
They're
absolute.
giant animals.
I mean, the bulls here, a big herd bull in Montana is going to go 1,000.
Yeah,
And he's
yeah.
like, yeah, he shot 385. He's like, that wasn't the biggest one they saw. And they were driving around like, Texas where they're out hunting whitetail in
The high
they got
rise.
the ladders in the back of the trucks. That's how these guys are hunting because you can see the antler tips walking through the corn.
Yep.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's wild. There's a spot that I hunt in western Nebraska for antelope, and dude, it is flat as the day is long, forever. But there's sections that they have planted in corn, and they run pivot on it.
Hmm.
And dude, randomly you'll be glassing for goats, and randomly it's like boom, big bull, like 330 bull walks out of the corn, and he's walking across this like winter wheat field that's 6-inch stubble, and he pops out of the corn. You didn't know. It's like, how that
Where did you come
where'd he
from?
come from? Yeah. But they're living in the cornfields. They have a pivot that's leaking water. They got water in the middle of the cornfield. They have all the food they need, the bedding that they need. And then randomly you just see him pop out of the corn, and you're like, that's a giant. And it's in the middle of nowhere. It's
And
so wild.
tasty because they're corn
Oh
finished.
yeah. Oh yeah, they are. You want to talk about cream of the crop for elk meat? Nebraska's probably got it.
Oh, that would be. I mean, we always joke all the time. Yeah, I shot me a ranch bull, got him
Yeah.
off the alfalfa field. That was great.
Yep. Exactly.
So last question is, it's the school of hard knocks, right? What is your biggest knock? Like, what was if you're talking to a new hunter and you wanted them to take away one experience that you had that you learned a lesson from, what's that experience and what was that lesson?
Don't. Okay, so this is going to be specifically for a Western hunt where you are um, doing a backpack hunt where you're carrying camp to and from different spots that you want to hunt. This is for that. I'm rooting that scenario. Don't pack stuff you don't need. Like, if you're not going to use it, if you don't see yourself using that piece of gear, that piece of equipment realistically every single day that you're up there, don't bring it. Unless it's like whatever. If it's an essential,
Yeah, your
that's
first aid kit.
out
You
of the
don't want to
question.
use your first
Right.
kit every day, but you're bringing that.
Or
Right,
like rain
exactly.
gear.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. If it's an essential, bring it. But don't bring just random stuff, man. Dude,
What
I
did
brought I brought an extra backpack inside of my backpack because I was like, well, I'll use this backpack for my like run and gun hunting, and I'll just load stuff in this little backpack and take that with me. I didn't even factor in that if I killed something and I had to debone and pack it back up to camp, now I have like a non-frame pack. Like it was the dumbest thing ever. I rolled up like a non-frame backpack and stuffed it inside of my like Kafaru like nice hunting pack. Brought it up. I didn't touch that thing, man. I didn't touch it the entire time, and it was just like an extra, I don't know, 3-4 pounds of backpack. It's
Oh,
like,
and space,
oh,
like
oh,
that's
space like it took up a quarter of the bottom of my backpack. It was ridiculous. I'm like, why am I packing this? And halfway up the mountain, Eric was laughing at me because he's just like, you actually have an extra backpack with you? I'm like, I mean, I didn't, I don't know. Yeah, it was the dumbest thing ever. But like, dissect your backpack. Don't bring anything that you don't absolutely need, especially on a run and gun style hunt. If you're moving camp and you're running, and if you're hunting, even if you're hunting from camp and you can leave everything there, you're going to kill yourself on the way up to hunt anything. And you're just going to be dead for the first 2 days because you're like, dude, why did I pack this 90-pound pack when it could have been 60? It could have been 55, So, yeah, dissect your pack and make sure that you're only bringing what you actually are going to use on the hunt.
yeah. No, and that I mean, my pack has evolved over the years as well. Like it used to be, okay, I had all this stuff, and now it's like, okay, I've pared this down, now I've pared this down, now I've pared this down, and then we did a 7-day hunt this year. It was like, okay, I have to fit everything I'm taking for 4 days into a 2K bag.
Yep.
And all of a sudden it gets real. Okay, do I actually use this? Do I need 7 rolls of toilet paper? Yes.
Right.
But I can
Yes,
survive with 2 and steal some from Jed.
Yeah.
because I'll
Yeah.
have extras for sure.
Yeah.
That he doesn't even know about because I
Exactly.
hid them in all the zippers. If you're going hunting with me, when you see me rummaging, I'm not stealing things. I'm planting.
Yeah.
And
Like
then
have little
reclaiming.
secret compartments that your hunting buddy doesn't know about where you keep all your Snickers and Twix.
Yep, exactly. Ooh, piece of candy.
Yeah. Oh, piece of candy.
Well, awesome.
Exactly.
When we wrap this up, Joel, where can everyone find you? Where can everyone follow you? Give, sell yourself.
Yeah, sounds good. Like I say, appreciate you guys having me on. So if you whitetailfit.com is my website that has like all my merchandise, my hats, t-shirts, hoodies, all that good stuff. I sell arrow wraps and vanes. Those have been huge sellers. Especially over the total archery challenge stuff. I've been going to these total archery challenges and I'm seeing people shooting the whitetail fit wraps and vanes. It's like, oh, that's so cool. It's just fun, like big part of the community, and so whitetailfit.com is where that's at. The social media links are on whitetailfit.com, but if you're on Instagram, it's whitetailfit or whitetail_fit. Everywhere else, it's whitetail fit. If you Google whitetail fit, all my social link, everything will pop up on Google if you just Google whitetail fit. So,
Cool. Yeah. No, and
yeah.
actually, Jed's son, Jack, because we always find arrows when we go to 3D shoots. I think he's
Yep.
got 2 that have whitetail fit flats on them
They're
right now.
they're probably mine. I hit a
Yep.
lot of rocks at them suckers.
Well, unless you're shooting in Blacktail, Montana.
Oh no, I wasn't. Nope.
Yeah,
I've
no,
never been
that
to the Montana shoot.
that was a
That's
shoot up
cool.
there 2 years ago. We found, it's like, hey, look at this. Yeah, whitetail fit. Here you go, Jack. Because
Oh, that's cool. Heck
too
yeah.
short for us, but that was pretty cool. But
Yeah, I've seen it's I think it was South Dakota last year. I shot a there's a couple different things I did. One, I shot a deer target and I like inside out 12 ring this deer target. I'm like, dude, that was sick. Take a picture, whatever. I forgot to pull it out of the deer target and just kept hunting or kept hiking and shooting the targets. And apparently the team behind us knew about the channel or whatever. And he pulled the arrow out and he took a picture of it and he sent it to me on Instagram. He's like, you missing one? And I didn't know I was missing one until he sent me the picture. And I'm like, yep,
yep.
that's my arrow. Like missed it. And another one, I snapped it off on a rock and I couldn't find, the knock or shaft or whatever. Somebody else found it and was like, pretty sure this is yours. You need to clean up your shooting or whatever. It's like a busted whitetail fit.
You should
Yeah,
start putting little like QR codes on the fletchings
yeah.
with like a
There you go.
10% off discount or something. Like, find my
Yeah,
fletching, get 10%
yeah.
off whitetail fit gear.
Exactly. Exactly. It's fun, man. Those tack events are fun.
Yeah, we shoot one called Mountain Archery Fest. That's similar, it's smaller, people. You might
Yeah.
see 500-600 people a day, but same concept, on a mountain shooting through a ski resort, and it's so much fun. It's
That
just
actually might be, I'll have to look those up because sometimes the events that don't have as many, I mean, I want everybody to experience it. Like, by all means, get your tickets and go try it. It's so much fun. But some of the events that have less people are more enjoyable because you're not getting backed up with shooters behind you or in front of you, and it's just like it's a clean flow, and
mhm.
you're not waiting on anybody. And it's just the atmosphere. You can kind of just take in the mountains more. There's not as many people. It's just, I don't know, shoots like that would be fun.
You should, saying that, you should come up to Blacktail, July 19th through the 21st. Nope,
Okay.
12th through the 13th. It's on their
Yep,
website.
yes.
We'll be
That's
at
for the mountain festival,
Mountain Archery Fest. Yep.
archery fest.
Yeah, we've tagged them in a bunch of our stuff. They're part of the School of Hard Knocks program with us as well. But the one up at Blacktail's up on Flathead Lake here in just
Oh,
south
nice.
of Kalispell, Montana. So
That's gorgeous.
you shoot, and Blacktail is an amazing ski resort where it's different because you drive to the top of the mountain and then you would ski down and ride the lifts back up.
Right.
But from the top, you can look into the Bob Marshall Glacier National Park. You have the entirety of Flathead Lake in the Mission Valley, so it's just gorgeous country, and a super fun shoot. We shoot every year. We do short Sundays where
Nice.
we wear break out the Ranger panties and
Bring the jean shorts, the jort.
shorter,
Oh, buddy. We get it
shorter.
way up there, huh?
A lot of thigh. My socks are covering more than my shorts are.
I love it. I love it.
So, but no, check those out. They're a great opportunity to get out and shoot. Like I said, anyone can grab a bow and just go fling arrows, like how you started. Just
Yep.
hey, I
100%.
found something. Let's try it.
Yep. You can go finger no peep sight 31-inch Walmart arrows and Allen broadheads too.
And it'll work. It'll kill stuff.
And it'll work. It'll kill something.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, comments, or any guests you'd like us to interview or talk to about, or any topics you'd like us to discuss, reach out to us on Instagram at Red Patch Outdoors or redpatchoutdoors.com, or hit us up at Ethan at redpatchoutdoors.com or Jed at redpatchoutdoors.com or info at redpatchoutdoors.com. We have our own
We finally sound
email
official.
Yeah, all the avenues of contact.
Yep.
I like it.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.